Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible, and we're doing Chronicles Junior at 25, and we know that because it says so right in the very first verse. Do we have? And isn't that amazing?
It
Anybody got
is.
any opening comments?
Oh my God, my Bible's in my room.
It's coming from inside the house.
Well, you can get it, Lilith. You
It's
can
in
get
the
it
walls.
while Tomer shows us on the doll where Jesus touched him. He's got it on screen.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. Jesus.
I mean,
did,
hasn't Jesus touched you as well?
No.
Because he supposedly touched all of us.
I not me personally, but I know a guy who let Jesus come inside him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've every time they tell me Jesus loves me, I ask for his home address so I can have him served with paperwork to keep him 500 meters away from me at all times. So I'm not into being touched by Jesus.
Okay, Lawrence, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
In your series of studies, did you read the banned books? Because I was just watching a video this morning about all these banned books of the Bible, not just the ones that we see listed that aren't in there inexplicably somehow anymore, but I mean a handful of others like the Gospel of Thomas, Judas, Mary, Philip, the Book of Enoch, the Apocalypse of Peter, the Shepherd of Hermas. All these.
Yeah, we read most of those. Yeah. We may have read the Apocalypse of Philip. We read all the other ones for sure. They're all on my channel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all under the Friday Apocryphal podcast playlist. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, the books that are listed under the Apocrypha, historically speaking, have been, they were always kind of dubious, which is why they had a separate section for them. So even the church tradition didn't view them as fully canon. And then eventually the Protestants came along and stopped publishing them with their Bibles. So that's why like the Catholic canon has them, and then like a lot of them that you like not those specific ones, but there's like, you know, Esther, sorry, not Esther, Judith, like, you know, Bell and the Dragon. There are a few others.
Tobit?
Yeah, Tobit as well.
I mean, it generally follows like it's Old Testament Apocrypha, right?
Yeah, that would be Old Testament.
It's not found in the Hebrew Bible as well, so.
Sure. Those would be encompassing those were none of the books that you mentioned, but those other ones, there's quite a big range of dates that they span, but they mostly come from later, and almost like, you know, everyone, even, you know, a lot of early Christians agreed that they were later. They argued about some of them. These things were canon. I shouldn't say canon. They were scripture in some churches because everything was very localized before it was, you know, made so universal. But even when it was, you know, universalized, even after they decided on orthodoxy, those other traditions, those other scriptures were still there. They just kind of fell out of use as those smaller communities went away. So then at a point in time much later, when they would fully canonize these things, the ones that were just not popular never made it into the canon. So it was a popularity contest, but it wasn't like a vote. It was more like how authoritative is this text considered?
It doesn't sound like a very fun popularity contest, because I personally think that the Bible would be greatly improved by a book with a dragon.
Well, so the thing is that there's still other canons, major canons that still include some of these things, right? So First Enoch, for example, is part of the Ethiopian canon. the issue that, and the thing is, even Tertullian argued that First Enoch should be considered canon among, you know, among their scriptures, because, like, among his own scriptures, because there is a citation of First Enoch in Jude. It cites it as if it were scripture. So Tertullian and plenty of other people thought that, hey, maybe we should consider First Enoch to be an authoritative text. But because of the actual story of First Enoch, people doubted that it could have survived the flood. So they were like, nah, it's probably not real. So I know, right? They were doing some critical thinking. So,
but technically, Noah was like a reasonably recent descendant of Enoch. I mean, it was just like 3 people.
Right. Yeah, but it would have been a whole. It's an antediluvian thing. So like they would think there's no way a book can survive this long.
Maybe not the book, but like the tale.
Sure. Yeah.
Can survive.
But either way, the majority of the churches in that region did not view it as authoritative, and then later on, that region would be the one to decide orthodoxy. But remember, orthodoxy is just them singling out one tradition, calling that one the correct one, but it doesn't make the others go away. Those are still there too.
It's still got an element of the doxy with the biggest stick, or perhaps the tallest hat in this instance.
Yeah. The books that you cited, right, like the Shepherd of Hermas, very influential. So was First Enoch. The imagery in something like the Apocalypse of Peter is it's incredibly influential in later years. So our manuscript evidence for that stuff is much less. Sometimes it is in fact just the discovery at Nag Hammadi that confirms some that we have any of these writings from. Notably, the Gospel of Judas is very, very broken.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
I'm so bummed about that.
It's but there's a lot of stuff that's missing.
If
just
that one
because
dealer hadn't been so greedy, he could have taken a couple $1,000s instead of trying to go for $3 million or something, and we could have had it whole before it ended up in a trash heap somewhere. I'm pissed about that one.
The thing is, the readings of many of these works are on my channel under Friday Apocrypha podcast.
Outstanding.
Well, I need to go back and do some of those because, well, obviously I have read some of the Apocrypha. I definitely haven't read it all.
No, there's too much to read it all because, like, the thing is, at some point you have stuff that is clearly fragmentary. So not just like the text that we have is broken in many places, but also it's very clear that there is, like, even if we have a complete text, it can very clearly be broken off at the end, and you can be like, well, this is obviously part of a larger compilation. We don't know how this even ends. So
which is
or
definitely
begins.
A bummer. I like my stories to have beginnings and ends.
Yeah, that would be nice. So so that there's an issue of that, but also, I mean, doing the show with it is kind of weird because sometimes it is these texts are just known to us through like a paragraph or two. So to do a whole show on that would be kind of like lame. So
although isn't Jude whoever wrote Second Peter, didn't he use that as kind of a basis? Jude as a basis? Because Second Peter was definitely like even what was it? Augustine was no, it wasn't Augustine. Who was arguing that it wasn't authentic way back in the day?
That it wasn't authentic.
It wasn't. Because I mean, we know it isn't, but like,
are you talking about Jude or Second Peter?
Second Peter. Not being authentic because, but sure. I think
I'd have to check my my multiple books of canon lists. But
yeah, sorry.
I don't exactly remember. However, I would say that I remember going over this on the show where we covered the parallels, the many parallels between Second Peter and Jude. And I know that there has historically been debate about, who copied from who, because it's abundantly fucking clear. But I forget the conclusion I actually came to, because it has been a while. But once I get back to that, because I'm currently doing a translation and commentary on the New Testament, but once I get back to that, I will definitely let you know further thoughts, or I'll just check a commentary later. But I really forget which one came first. I know that there has been debate about that, but I forgot the conclusion I even came to on the
pretty
show.
sure
'cause
it was
it's been so
Second
long ago.
Peter, because like Second Peter is one of the latest written things in the New
Second
Testament.
Second Peter is a lot longer than Jude, right? So I think
Yeah, but it's
yeah,
also like it's one of the poorest attempts at pretending to be inauthentic. And as Bart Ehrman has said many times, there was something of a cottage industry of writing things for Peter.
that is true. Yeah.
You mentioned commentary, and that reminded me. YouTube has changed something significant.
Oh dear.
They don't anymore since the 17th of last month. They don't anymore email notifications. When someone comments on my videos, I would get a notification that, and sometimes it wouldn't notice all of them, but what it would tell me is, if I'm having a discussion with somebody, if somebody replies to something I said, I would get an email notification of it, even if it was from years ago on a video that isn't recent. But they don't do that anymore. So if you want to have a discussion with me, YouTube is no longer the way to do that. I will never know if you replied to something I said, and you will never know if I replied to you unless we go through the labor of going to see, did someone reply? That I'm just not doing that.
Now you have too many videos for that.
Yeah.
Aaron, I just checked.
Yeah.
It's probably a setting in your settings, because
I talked to YouTube about it.
You did?
I talked to YouTube tech support, and they said, this is the policy going forward. There isn't we could tell you where the setting is, but it will no longer work, because YouTube no longer supports email notifications. So discussions, which were a great way to drive revenue, say something controversial in a video and it starts an argument in the chat or in the comment, can't do that anymore, because you have to go manually look to see if somebody replied to you.
Sounds like they don't want to pay anybody.
There is one, but that could be annoying. There's one other option. You can, at least in Chrome, you can receive notifications on your computer even if you're not watching YouTube. But that could just mess with everything.
It could.
Because,
we'll figure that out later. But I mean, there'll be ways to work around YouTube being a douche. So
I just want to let everybody know, if I didn't answer you, it's not because you scared me away. So I don't even know or care that you said anything.
And I think it's the 17th of June, right? Was it from the 17th of June?
If I remember correctly, that was the last time I had email notifications, was on the 17th.
Me too. Yeah. The last email I have, someone liked a comment of mine or anything from YouTube on the 17th of June.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope,
they still have notifications, but not emails.
Yeah. I just keep YouTube open on my phone and check the notifications there. It's something, but yeah, it's
Now I'm going to channel Tomer. Can we begin reading this book, please?
Someone in the chat had a suggestion. Pandora's Pinata, he said, I can write him a bot that does that. It would ping him on Discord. I don't think that's going to help.
Yeah,
it's very kind of you to offer, but Aaron does not spend a great deal of time on Discord.
Yeah.
He's there in spirit.
Should I read chapter 1? Chapter 1, the first chapter.
Yeah, let's do chapter 1. Why won't we do it? Right?
Yeah, we lost our place. Back to the beginning, everyone.
Yes,
Genesis
back
1.
to the beginning. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well, I was thinking of
I'll read the
Third Chronicles. Okay.
Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan, Jehoiadan of Jerusalem. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not with a true heart. I guess he did it begrudgingly because he knew God would punish him. But anyway, as soon as the royal power was firmly in his hand, that's a euphemism, he killed his servants who had murdered his father the king. But he did not put their children to death, according to what is written in the law, in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded the parents shall not be put to death for the children, or the children be put to death for the parents, but all shall be put to death for their own sins, which kind of overturns that whole Christianity thing. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Amaziah assembled the people of Judah and set them by ancestral houses under commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds, for all Judah and Benjamin. He mustered those 20 years old and up, and found that they were 300,000, picked troops fit for war, able to handle spear and shield. He also hired 100,000 mighty warriors from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him and said, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, all these Ephraimites. Rather, go by yourself and act. Be strong in battle, or God will fling you down before the enemy, for God has power to help or to overthrow. Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do about the 100 talents that I have given to the army of Israel? The man of God answered, the Lord is able to give you much more than this. Then Amaziah discharged the army that had come to him from Ephraim, letting them go home again. But they became angry with Judah and returned home fierce in anger. Amaziah strengthened himself and led out his people. He went to the valley of Salt and struck down 10,000 men of Seir. The people of Judah captured another 10,000 alive, took them to the top of Selah, and threw them down from the top of Selah, so that all of them were dashed to pieces.
How lovely.
10,000 people thrown off a mountain. The last ones were not necessarily killed because they were falling on the bodies of the people that were now just stacked close to them.
Your translation isn't as graphic. My one has, and every one of them was burst open.
Yeah, Nivka'u.
Oh, great.
Lovely.
Great.
Yeah.
So there wasn't
I knew God loved
anything.
blood. I didn't think he needed them to blow up for it, but
isn't it interesting that God never inspires, community effort to accomplish anything? No, it's just go out and kill all the other people I created and whom I love.
Also, insult your allies and send them home like cowards, because it'll help my ego if I get all the credit for the victory, because that's a good way to behave.
But the men of the army whom Amaziah sent back, not letting them go with him into battle, fell on the cities of Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon. They killed 3,000 people in them and took much plunder. Now, after Amaziah come from slaughter of the Edomites, he brought up the gods of the people of Seir, set them up as his gods, and worshipped them, making offerings to them. The Lord was angry with Amaziah, and sent him a prophet who said to him, why have you resorted to a people's gods who could not deliver their own people from your hand? But as he was speaking, the king said to him, have we made you a royal counselor? Stop. Why should you be put to death? So the prophet stopped, but said, I know that God has determined to destroy you because you have done this and have not listened to my advice. Anybody doesn't listen to my advice, God kills them. So I'm important. Then King Amaziah of Judah took counsel and sent King Joash, son of Jehoaz, son of Jehu of Israel, saying, come, let us look one another in the face. King Joash of Israel sent word to King Amaziah of Judah, a thorn bush on Lebanon sent to a cedar on Lebanon, saying, "Give your daughter to my son for a wife." But a wild animal of Lebanon passed by and trampled down the thorn bush. You say, "See, I have defeated Edom, and your heart has lifted you up in boastfulness. Now stay at home. Why should you provoke trouble so that you fall, you and Judah with you?" But Amaziah would not listen. It was God's doing, in order to hand them over because they had sought the gods of Eden. So King Joash of Israel went up, and King Amaziah of Judah faced one another in battle at Beth Shemesh, which belongs to Judah. Judah was defeated by Israel. Everyone fled home. King Joash of Israel captured King Amaziah of Judah, son of Joash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate, a distance of 400 cubits. He seized all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God, and Obed-Edom with them. He seized all the treasures of the king's house, also hostages. Then he returned to Samaria. King Amaziah, son of Joash of Judah, lived 15 years after the death of King Joash, son of Jehoaz of Israel. And now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, from the first to the last, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? From the time that Amaziah turned away from the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish and killed him there. They brought him back on horses. He was buried with his ancestors in the city of David.
So I think we should note that there is, of course, the two separate Yoashes, right? So there's one of Israel and one of Judah. Which, yeah, because otherwise it could get kind of complicated. But yeah, one's dead. So that should help. We're talking about the other one.
That does help the continuity.
Yeah. But either way, so as Aaron noted, the whole original sin thing. So yes, it is. Obviously they're quoting from the law, where the children will not be put to death for the sins of the parents. But
yeah, specifically Deuteronomy 24:16.
Sure. Yeah. The thing is, the Bible's not always consistent on this.
Oh yeah, because you've got to the fifth generation in one case, or
to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, but 1,000 generations to them that love me and are called by my name.
Yeah, that's Deuteronomy 5:9, I think.
And then we also have, of course, the passage in Ezekiel. I forget which one exactly it is, but was Ezekiel 18 or 28, one of those?
Yeah, 18 verses 1, 19 to 24, as well as Jeremiah 31, 29, and 30.
Jeremiah 2, okay. But yeah, those are very much against the idea of original sin, because they take up this line of thought. So it's very clear that in such a hectic period for Israel, they weren't exactly sure, right? Because sometimes they could see the moral issue of blaming children for their parents' sins, or punishing children for their parents' sins. But at the same time, they were like, but why do we keep getting fucked over so much? So they were really caught between a rock and a hard place from their perspective.
Well, and there's obviously, this is a very tribal culture, so you have a duty to avenge your family members when they're wronged. There's an entire code of honor around that, and so you are, in a sense, raising children who will have a vendetta against you if you kill their parents, which is why the imposition of laws where, like, okay, this person is being put to death by the law as opposed to by this guy who doesn't like him is a different thing. And yeah, I mean, obviously in practice, it's not at all consistent. Even after the law was supposedly given, the fellow who took stuff in Jericho, his entire household and all their animals and slaves were all killed. You have, even in the law, the thing about the, a few people in the town worship another god. You kill everyone in the town and burn it and everything in it, so it'll be ruined forever. Like, it's wildly inconsistent and very cruel. But I do notice how listening to the prophet got him enemies, got him his cities ransacked behind his back while he was at war. And so he doesn't listen to the prophet anymore. And the prophet's going, now God is against you. It's like, your advice got him fucked over. What are you bitching about? Why should he listen to you? But it's just
when you
always...
go into battle, it doesn't matter how much you train. It doesn't matter how much you practice. God decides who's going to win or lose. God doesn't actually make your enemies fall down. He doesn't do any fighting for you. It's just that if you win, it's because God was with you. And if you lose, it's because God was not with you. And you just assume all of that anyway. And God may not even exist, but you just lost. And you're just going to assume that God wanted you to lose.
So basically, he's like an invisible bard that plays songs that strengthen you or discourage you, but you don't actually hear the songs or see.
That's one thing I'm really impressed with God. He's got not existing down pat. He's perfect at it.
He is, and yet he claims so much credit at the same time. It's really remarkable.
Tomer, since we don't have any commentary, should we move on to the next?
Maybe we should, there is an interesting thing to note here. The King's text does follow Deuteronomy 24:16, with the verb mot, to die, and is conjugated with the hofal, shall be put to death. But in Chronicles, it is in the kal, which means that it is not necessarily by human agency. And Japhet writes that where was it? Yeah, she writes that for the chronicler, this is a key to a different theological principle. Vicarious punishment is to be avoided not only in the sphere of human judicial procedure, but also in the divine management of the world. The strictly individual character of retribution is a universal and absolute rule.
Wait, which word are you saying? Are you talking about?
I'm talking about the hofal of yamut. Sorry, of the verb mot.
Right. So in Deuteronomy, it's not in Deuteronomy. It doesn't say lo yamutu. It says something else.
Lo yumtu or yumatu. It's in the hofal, I think.
Okay. Which is...
But this is changing Chronicles to with kal conjunction, yamutu.
Right. And hofal is like more passive. I can't remember.
I
Causative?
guess. I think so.
Okay. Well,
But like she notes that this is something that is, these are slight linguistic changes between the two versions, and one of these is of theological significance. So, one implies that there is no, it's not necessarily by humans. So
you're saying not only are the law, you shouldn't put to death someone for the crimes of their father, or put to death someone for the crimes of their children. It also applies like to God. Like God wouldn't kill someone for the crimes of their father. Is that what the difference is?
I think so. I think so.
So it's not only like put to death, but also like die from natural causes, i.e., God punishing them.
Yeah, you could say that.
Oh, I see.
I see some comments, I think. Yeah.
Okay, we got Trevor and Wright, who says, "Isn't it amazing? God in Chronicles seems to always have a selected tribe just to command to commit violence. And isn't it when someone has multiple ways of navigating these laws?" Did I read that right? And isn't when someone has multiple ways. Okay. Yeah. And then an internet user, because I remember,
Yes.
says, "Aaron, will otherwise religious scriptures be covered besides the Abrahamic scriptures like Zoroastrian texts, Hindu texts, Buddhist texts, Egyptian texts, Taoist texts, etc.? I might do, but they're not prioritized because Islam obviously is a pending threat, and Christian nationalism is looming doom. So there are certain things that need more attention more immediately.
The thing is, I mean, you already did your Quran show.
Yep. And you're doing one now, right?
I'm doing one now. But then after that, we'll probably do the Book of Mormon. Because we got a great name for it. But
warning, it's just like
Fun.
Chronicles. It's just every other page, tens of thousands of people die.
all right then.
And then the same people, the next page after that, tens of thousands of people die from that same tribe again.
And you have
Like
to have an it came to pass counter if you do the Book of Mormon.
Do we? Okay. Well,
Viewers insisted on it when Arn did.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say for the Book of Mormon is it is written so badly
Yeah.
that it makes the Bible look really good. It even makes the Quran look good.
That's impressive. The first what was it, I guess it's technically the second surah is so poorly written. So poorly written. The rest of it's been okay, but the second surah is very poorly written.
You
But
talk about
then at some point we want to go over like the maybe some I don't know. I want to cover like some Hindu texts. I think that'd be fun, or some Buddhist texts. I think that'd be a neat thing to do.
I was under the impression that Surah 2 was so ridiculously long and so just absurd that it was supposed to prevent people from wanting to read the rest of it.
That is quite funny.
That does sound like a holy book, although it's really, really funny when Muslims or even copies of the Quran go, if anyone doubts this is written of God, let him write a better book and show. And then, everybody goes, ugh, Surah 2, so bad. Yeah. I'm like, God.
That's when Joseph Smith said, hold my beer.
Is he allowed beer?
I mean, the best thing about the Book of Mormon was that we finally discovered that Jesus had a Southern accent, an American Southern accent.
Of course he did.
I don't know if Joseph Smith was allowed beer, but he seemed to get first choice of all of his neighbors' teenagers.
Yeah, that's not gross at all. Don't you love the morality that says, I'm too good to drink coffee, but not too good to fuck a 14-year-old?
All right. Hey, Tomer, you got any commentary?
Maybe.
Tomer needs some WD-40.
Okay, so first of all, we'll note that this chapter is parallel with 2 Kings 14. So we'll start on verse 2. In 2 Kings 14:3, Amaziah does what is right in the eyes of Yahweh, quote, but not like his ancestor David. He did just as his father Joash had done, end quote. The expression wholeheartedly, in Hebrew belevav shalem, appears elsewhere in Chronicles in a positive sense, as we've seen 1 Chronicles 12:39, which is 38, 28:9, 29:9, etc. Dillard, following McConville, writes, quote, while the chronicler often divides an individual reign into distinct periods of obedience and disobedience, here he depicts Amaziah as fundamentally half-hearted and mediocre from the beginning. On verse 5, 300,000 men fit for military service. The number of troops under Amaziah is relatively small compared to other kings. Asa had 580,000, as we see in 14:7, which is 8. Jehoshaphat had 1,160,000, according to 17, 14 through 18. Abiah had 400,000, according to 13:3, etc. During Jehoram's reign, Edom and Libnah revolted, as we see in 21:10, and the Aramean army defeated the army of Joash, Amaziah's father, as we see in 24-23. Klein writes that in the chronicler's mind, these setbacks may have reduced the ability of Amaziah to number as many troops as his predecessors. He writes that the decline of 48% from the size of Asa's army and 74% from Jehoshaphat's may indicate the relative strength of Amaziah and account for his decision to employ mercenaries. On verse 7, a man of God. He appears in this chapter 3 times. The title is given in Chronicles to describe Moses, as we've seen in 30:16 and 1 Chronicles 23:14, David in 8:14, and Shemaiah in 11:2. Japhet notes that this is the only instance where the man of God is anonymous, much like the prophet of verse 15. In contrast, Kings mentions many anonymous prophets, as we see in 1 Kings 13, 20, 13 through 43, etc. Thus, Williamson suggested that the prophets mentioned here are fictitious, and that the chronicler brought them here for the theological coherence. But Dillard suggested that this may reflect the chronicler's reluctance to supplement arbitrarily details for which he had no authentic tradition. Thus, for all other prophets mentioned by name, the chronicler was drawing on some historical tradition. Regardless, Kimchi notes that in the Midrash, Seder Olam Haba 22 and Sifrei Deuteronomy 3:42, this man of God was Amos, Isaiah's father.
So I know that in the king's account there was, I'm not sure if it was to the specific king, but there was definitely at least a couple unnamed prophets, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he saw that and was just building off of the kind of I guess you can call it an archetype that they built. But I'd have to go back and actually look at their proclamations.
There is a lot of world building, trying to connect the dots.
Yeah, I don't really see any comparison at the moment to other prophets, though it could be a possibility. Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else just get the vibe that the man of God is just some random old, probably very unwashed dude who's screaming stuff on the street corner? Because, like, I lived in a city. There's plenty of those. I'm not listening to them.
I think most prophets were like that, right?
Yeah, unless they were hired by the court. But this one seems like he definitely was not hired by the court. In fact, he was almost the opposite. He wasn't even hired, and he was being fired from the court.
Yeah. Oh, that's always nice.
Yeah. On that same verse, not with any of the people of Ephraim. The title Ephraim is used in several biblical texts to depict the entire northern kingdom. Compare Targum, which reads, all the kingdom of the tribe of the house of Ephraim. Levin notes that, although some commentators, like Dillard and Klein, understood the prophet's statement as a general statement, negating the legitimacy of the northern kingdom, others, like Williamson and Japhet, see it as describing the situation at that moment. God is not with the northern kingdom as long as it continues to sin against him. On verse 11, men of Seir. 2 Kings 14:7 has Edom, which the chronicler replaced with sons of Seir, in Hebrew Bnei Seir, followed by the gods of the sons of Seir, in verse 14. In the Bible, Seir, Edom, and Esau are closely related and are often taken as synonyms. Levin notes Kalimi's opinion that the change from Edom to Seir in verse 11 was made as a sort of pun, which he defines as paronomasia, placing the similar-looking words Aseret, 10,000, and Seir in close proximity for aesthetic purposes. Peshitta reads, the people of Mount Gabla, which is, somehow I didn't really, I hate when this happens. It's the usual translation of Seir, I think, in the, not Targum. Oh, in the Palestinian Targums, I think. Yeah, Palestinian Targums. Okay. On verse 13, towns belonging to Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon. Commentators note several issues with this statement. First, Samaria and Beth Horon were not part of Judah, though Klein notes that as a border city, Beth Horon may have been incorporated into the southern kingdom at the time of Amaziah. The reference to Samaria, however, is more difficult, since it suggests that mercenaries attacked their own people. Levin notes four explanations given by scholars. Levin notes four explanations given by scholars. 1. Judah may have controlled parts of Mount Ephraim during the late 9th century BCE, according to Japhet. 2. The statement refers to the origin of the raiders. Keel suggested that they may have returned home first and then raided Judite towns. 3. There's a textual misunderstanding. Rudolph suggested that Shomron, Samaria, may be an error for Migron, a town in the eastern part of the Benjaminite Hills, known in the Bible only in 1 Samuel 14:2 and Isaiah 10:28. Thus, the raid occurred on an east-west axis along the boundary between the two kingdoms. Dembski suggested reading Shomron as a bioform of Shomer or Shemer, which appears in Asher's genealogy in 1 Kings 7:32 and 33, which he understood as being the same as Shemed, who built Ono and Lod in 1 Chronicles 8:12. Thus, the raid began in the area of Lod in the lower Ayalon Valley and proceeded up the Bat Horon ascent. And 4. The passage should be understood allegorically. Ben Tzvi suggested that to the Persian period readers, this illustrates how Judah's power and protection depended on faithfulness to Yahweh, and once Amaziah faltered, divine protection vanished, allowing even Samaria, quote unquote, to threaten Judah. On verse 14, Klein notes that in antiquity, a conqueror would often transfer the enemy's divine images to his own territory to signify his victory and that of his gods. He notes Lowry's opinion that behind this verse lies a tradition in which Amaziah took the Edomite gods to Jerusalem in order to re-establish Edom as a vassal of Judah. Assyrian texts claim that the gods of the enemies abandoned their people and assisted the attacking force. Amaziah should have destroyed these images as David did in 1 Chronicles 14:12, in the spirit of Deuteronomy 7:5 and 12:3. He writes, quote, "It is one thing to bring back these idols as trophies, but quite another to recognize them as gods and even worship them. Clearly, Amaziah here is not doing what is upright," end quote. And Levin yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And Levin comments, quote, "This is the only place in the entire Bible in which explicit mention is made of the gods of Edom and Seir. Historically, we know very little about Edomite religion. At some point in the late Iron Age, we begin to see Edomite inscriptions that include names with the theophoric element kos, usually vocalized kaus or kos by scholars. Such names became more common among the Persian and Hellenistic period Idumeans, who settled in southern Judah, but information is still limited."
That is interesting. I really want to reread that book by Francesca Stavropoulos. Dr. Stavropoulos. I want to call her Francesca just because I can't pronounce her last name properly. Stavropoulos. Yeah. But she writes about how this was indeed very common, where you get the gods of the other nation, you bring them into your temple, and it's like combination of displaying the vanquished gods before your god and obviously sort of paying a visit of state, but like from a subjected position. It honestly sounds like he could have been doing one and have it be interpreted as the other by very black and white thinking people after the fact, because it's very, they did that with the Philistines in the ark, and they brought it before Dagon as like, look, haha, we captured this god for you. You have vanquished him. And, then the statue falls over and it's all dramatic and shit. But yeah, the idea that he set them up in the temple could entirely have been my God beat your God, now you have to sit there and watch thing that was very normal at the time. Little bit playground vibe, but and yet it's being interpreted as him worshiping these gods that he had just conquered, which again doesn't make a lot of sense with the theology of the time, because if a god was just conquered, that's not the moment when he gains new worshipers usually.
Yeah, the criticism is like valid. Like, why would you worship them? They couldn't even save their people from you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
And I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
that's
almost. Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it kind of the text almost portrays Amaziah like that he's not stable.
Mm.
He listens to the prophet when the prophet tells him to do something stupid,
Hmm.
like get rid of a quarter of his force and insult them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it even shows, that this wasn't good. This was bad for him. He had
Yeah.
his, and then I mean maybe because of that, the raiding and stuff like that, he was like, oh no, this prophet doesn't know what he's talking about. I
I should
didn't
not
get
listen
back
to
that
him.
I didn't get back that silver. So let me, tell
And
him
instead,
I
my
can do what I
towns got
want.
raided. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly. So
it's
depends on how you look at it.
true. But it to me, it very much gives the vibe of them trying to make excuses after the fact for how this turns out and make it his fault. But he still gets the victory at the first part. So he must have done something good. So obviously he listened to the prophet of God about something stupid. And then, it's more like, to me, it feels more like the priests and the prophets are writing this after the fact, trying to find a way to blame the king for the bad things and give God credit for the good things. So he followed God, but he didn't follow God, but he did a little bit, but then not. But then, so it ends up being radically inconsistent, as does every attempt to give God all the glory and none of the blame.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a bit of an implication, like if he had come back and not worshipped these other gods, then maybe something good would have happened and he would have got back his silver or whatever. But it's
But his towns
Yeah.
were already raided behind his back, and the neighboring king, who had been an ally, was already telling him to fuck off. So,
So did the man of God lie when he said that? I mean, he said God can pay you back. He didn't say he will.
well, imaginary money is always very easily promised.
Hmm.
It's kind of like when God can do anything, but doesn't do anything.
Someone shared recently, there's a YouTuber who makes videos about God creating different breeds of dog. And it's like, what was the thought process when he made the terrier or whatever? They're quite funny, but it's also kind of ironic because God can't create dog breeds.
Oh yeah, the TikTok with and then wasn't Satan the one responsible for the Chihuahua in that one?
Maybe I didn't watch it.
It was
I think I saw a clip
Wait,
where he
was
did
this
it.
was this like
It's
a comedy
it's
series?
TikTok.
shared
It's
it.
comedy. It's
Okay.
comedy on
Someone
TikTok.
shared it
Okay.
in Thomas' Discord.
I don't know about that Discord. I've never been in there.
Tomer has a Discord?
I don't think so.
I believe it's the same creator who did the John Wick Did Nothing Wrong that you all wanted me to see, which I did see, which was very, yeah, obviously. I agree completely.
But
John
for
Wick.
those who didn't know, I put the link to Tomer's Discord in chat.
I think it's called Stage 1, Lawrence.
Yeah. I think that's what you would call it.
Okay, so on verses 15 and 16, Boda comments, quote, as in the earlier case of relying on mercenaries, Amaziah was confronted by a prophet. This time, however, the king rejected the prophet's counsel, threatening execution. This precipitated the prophet's curse in verse 15. These last words of the prophet to the king are eerily reminiscent of the final words of the priestly prophet Zechariah to Amaziah's father, Joash, in 24:22. This foreshadows their common destiny in 24:25 and 25:27. On verse 17, after Amaziah, king of Judah, consulted his advisors. This detail is not found in Kings. Japhet writes that this addition serves a literary function, to unify the present unit with the larger pericope, as it continues the theme of counsel in verse 16. Quote, the king did not accept God's advice through a prophet, but himself takes counsel to go to war. End quote. She adds that according to the Chronicles' historical viewpoint, counseling is a major component in the king's status and behavior. The king's authority is limited by the need to include other factors in the state's management. She writes, quote, This same idea of shared responsibility also serves to account for the scope of the disaster. It is not the king alone who will suffer, as will become later. The sin must then have involved more than the guilt of the king alone. On verse 20, the theological explanation given in this verse, which is not found in Kings, is the chronicler's own interpretation of the events, in line with his theology of retribution, according to Dillard. Klein writes that in a conveyance formula, quote, in order to hand them over, end quote, which is taken from the Holy War tradition, the chronicler indicates that the coming defeat is God's own verdict. On verse 24, in the care of Obed-Edom. Obed-Edom is not mentioned in the parallel of 2 Kings 14:14. According to 2 Samuel 6:10-12, which is 1 Chronicles 13:13-14, and 15:25, the ark was kept in Obed-Edom's house for 3 months before David brought it to Jerusalem. And in Chronicles, he is depicted as one of the Levitical gatekeepers for the ark, as we've seen 1 Chronicles 15:18, and as one of the musicians in 1 Chronicles 15:21, 16 verses 5 and 38. Levin notes that since 200 years separate between David and Amaziah, some scholars, like Rudolph and Williamson, see the mention of Obed-Edom here as a secondary addition, with Rudolph noting that the reference to Obed-Edom is missing in Vitus Latina. Japhet notes the poetic justice, quote-unquote, of Amaziah, who was an Oved-Edom, i.e. worshipper of Edom, having his treasures, kept by Obed-Edom, looted by the northern kingdom. Pseudo-Rashi and Kimchi suggest that the note indicates that Obed-Edom's descendants were keepers of the treasures all their lives, an interpretation favored by Dillard. And finally, 27, from the time that Amaziah turned away from following the Lord. This is in addition to 2 Kings 14:19, which links Amaziah's assassination to his apostasy, not his apostasy. I don't know what I wrote here. Klein notes that the chronicler wants to interpret the conspiracy against Amaziah as a direct consequence of Amaziah's Edomite idolatry and his disobedience to the anonymous prophet, neither of which was included in the text of 2 Kings 14. Likewise, Josephus in Antiquities 9:204 writes that Amaziah was killed, quote, because of his innovations which led him to show contempt of God, end quote. And no ancient questions.
Hey, who's going to read the next one?
I'm going to do the next one.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so chapter 26.
There was
Sorry,
one thing I
wait.
wanted to mention about this chapter. So, even though he's not a main character of the chapter, we have a mention of King Joash of Israel. So he's the one who's the son of Jehoahaz, and who's the son of whatever. But he's related. He's also mentioned in archaeology. Amaziah, he's not mentioned anywhere. Maybe he didn't even exist. Maybe he did. But Joash is actually mentioned in an Assyrian tablet. I think the father of what's his name? The first big emperor of Assyria.
Cyrus? No,
Tiglath-Pileser.
Tiglath-Pileser.
Tiglath-Pileser the third. Also the father of there was like 4 brothers in a row or something. So he's mentioned as a Jehoash of Samaria. So the city as well is mentioned for the first time, I think, in these records.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
All right, and with that, I will hop to chapter 26.
Yes.
Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king to succeed his father Amaziah. He rebuilt Eloth and restored it to Judah after the king slept with his ancestors. Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Yechaliah of Jerusalem. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, just as his father Amaziah had done. Wait, hold up. Okay, I'll get back to that. Just as Father Amaziah had done. He set himself to seek God in the days of Zechariah, who instructed him in the fear of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. He went out and made war against the Philistines, as is tradition, and broke down the wall of Gath and the wall of Yabna and the wall of Ashdod. He built
Yabna.
cities in the territory of Ashdod and elsewhere among the Philistines. God helped him against the Philistines, against the Arabs who lived in Gur-Baal, and against the Moabites. The Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread even to the border of Egypt, where he became very strong. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the corner gate, at the valley gate, and at the angle. Okay, at the angle, and fortified them. I don't know why. Okay, I'll ask later why angles capitalized. And fortified them. He built towers in the wilderness and dug out many cisterns, for he had large herds, both in the Shephelah and in the plain. And he had farmers and vine dressers in the hills and in the fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Moreover, dude, this is a weird chapter. Moreover, Uzziah had an army of soldiers fit for war in divisions according to the numbers of the muster made by the secretary Yeiel and the officer Maaseiah, under the direction of Hananiah, one of the king's commanders. The whole number of the heads of ancestral houses of mighty warriors was 2,600. Under their command was an army of 307,500. Yeah, 307,500. Okay. Who could make war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. Uzziah provided for all the army the shields, spears, helmets, coats of mail, bows, and stones for slinging. In Jerusalem, he set up machines invented by skilled workers on the towers and the corners for shooting arrows and large stones. And his fame spread far, for he was marvelously helped until he became strong. But when he had become strong, he grew proud to his destruction, for he acted unfaithfully toward the Lord his God, and entered the temple of the Lord to make offering on the altar of incense. But the priest Azariah went in after him with 80 priests of the Lord, who were men of valor. They withstood King Uzziah and said to him, "It is not for you, Uzziah, to make offering to the Lord, but for the priests, the descendants of Aaron." I wonder who wrote this text. Who are consecrated to make offering. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have acted unfaithfully, and it will bring you no honor from the Lord God. Then Uzziah was enraged. Now he had a censer in his hand to make offering, and when he became enraged with the priests, a defiling disease broke out on his forehead in the presence of the priests in the house of the Lord by the altar of incense. When the chief priest Azariah and all the priests looked at him, he was diseased on his forehead. They hurried him out, and he himself hurried to get out. But the Lord had struck him. King Uzziah had a defiling disease to the day of his death, and being diseased lived in a separate house, for he was excluded from the house of the Lord. His son Jotham was in charge of the place of the king, governing the people of the land. Now, the rest of the acts of Uzziah, from first to last, the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, wrote. Uzziah slept with his ancestors. They buried him near his ancestors in the burial field that belonged to the kings, for they said he had a defiling disease. His son Jotham succeeded him. So
That's an awful harsh reaction to a zit.
Yeah.
it could be multiple zits.
Yeah.
Put some hot pepper oil instead of incense spray him with.
Yeah.
So is this the word that's usually translated as
Translated.
leprosy?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
That's
sagat.
what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, JPS translates it as leprosy.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
right. Yeah. So, but I think I'm pretty sure like scholars now have no fucking clue. They know
Yeah.
that it's some sort of skin disease. Leprosy was, of course, an early idea, but we don't actually know what it was.
Yeah,
So-
but the point is that it is divinely inflicted.
right,
like,
yes,
it's from
divinely
Yahweh.
inflicted, and because he was diseased, he had to go be in a separate house where he
And
died.
there
Had to live in
Leviticus
isolation.
Leviticus talks
Quest-
about how you
Right.
purify the leper, not cure. I don't think it talks about curing him, just purify him, something like that.
Wait,
yeah,
wasn't-
it's
no,
considered
that-
it's considered an unholiness, like a
Wasn't
like
there
the
when you
cure
have
with
that
the
disease,
birds?
you are treated.
I
Sorry?
don't think that's cure in a sense that you think. if I
okay,
remember
so it
correctly.
was so it should be interpreted as like ritually cleanse. but
I
not
think
cure.
so. Yeah,
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think so.
Because yeah, you're in a state of uncleanliness when you have this disease. It's like very visual sense. You're treated like
Yeah.
someone who is, well,
Well,
I guess
yeah, but you're also like
worse, but yeah, you're
ritually
considered
impure, where you
hateful.
can't necessarily like do things. You can't like handle stuff of God, right? Because you are ritually unclean. So yeah,
Well, in
there's
this case, he
would
had
be
to
a
stay in a
purification
separate
for that.
palace, so it was clearly considered potentially.
Yeah,
I
Some
that's
think
why they
it's
had to
because
get him out so
he would have
fast.
been seen as a source of ritual impurity, which was something that
Yeah.
people avoided.
Right, yeah.
as much as
Um,
possible.
Yeah, but there were a few things that struck me, right? So initially, usually we get a phrase like "he did what was right in the sight of the Lord," like at the end of their lives, right?
Mhm.
So it's weird that it pops up in the very beginning of the text
I'm
or
going
of the
to
chapter.
tentatively agree with you on this one, Lawrence, because I've noticed this trend specifically when they crown children. Joash, Josiah, the little boy, like 16, is frankly older than some of the other ones, but still young enough to be controlled. And they're always doing what's right in the sight of the Lord as long as they're children and easily led by the priests. And then as soon as they get old enough to have their own thoughts or take any kind of actual leadership or impetus or anything, then they have become proud and done evil in the sight of the Lord. Because there's a lot of this sort of flip-flop half and half. And it always seems to be with the ones who are crowned young.
And remember that doing evil
Well,
in the sight of the
Amaziah-
Lord can
Actually,
be summarized.
Amaziah also had it pretty early too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a switch and wasn't necessarily crowned as a child. But sorry, R.
Doing evil in the sight of the Lord can often be summarized as simply saying, "I don't believe this shit."
That is part of it. Yeah.
Well, or just not doing exactly what the priests want you to do, it seems.
Yep.
Yeah, it's usually the priest.
Just
So there was that, but I guess it's not really as weird if we consider Amaziah had the same thing. However, it is strange that both both Amaziah and Uzziah, both of them they say that they did what was right in the sight of the Lord, but then we get a story about how they absolutely did not eventually.
Yeah, it basically follows only the first half of Uzziah's rule.
Yeah. So while you could say that like, he did all these great things, at the end he tried to make an offering. Like, look how quickly all that went away.
Yeah.
Although
see, he took initiative.
yeah,
God doesn't like that.
Although, so in verse 9, verse 9. So moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, at the
you talking
valley
about the
gate, and
angle?
at the angle. Yeah. So
Hamiksoa.
I get that these
Yeah.
are all parts of the complex, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Go ahead.
this is the word here is hamiksoa, which hamiksoa the you could say angle. Yeah, so it might be referred to a specific area. I didn't include this in my commentary, so I'm going to check this real quick.
It's written like a proper name, so they think you should capitalize it in English.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Okay. Written like a
It could just be
Um,
referring to like the angle of the wall.
Yeah.
Um,
Like probably like
yeah.
where they meet. Right.
mm.
Yeah. I mean, the Targum has on the gates of the corners, and Septuagint has at the gate of the
Probably
ravine
some
and
weird
and
transliteration.
on the corners
Oh.
as well.
Yeah, so
But
they
Klein
also-
Klein notes the location of the angle Amiktsua is uncertain, and there are no other references to it in pre-exilic times. It must have lain on the east side of the southern hill of Jerusalem. If the chronicler were freely composing, he might be expected to make his account of Uzziah's rebuilding an exact counterpart to the report of the destroyed city wall in 2523, which mentions the Ephraimite gate in addition to the corner gate. That's that, and I want to see if Levin talks about
who's
it.
the danger noodle?
This one is Isaboa.
Oh,
Because
Isaboa.
Isaboa. Yeah. Well, one of the nice things about being a leper in that time.
Wait, StreamYard, just pause for a
Something
minute.
glitched on your microphone?
No,
Okay.
it's just StreamYard. Now you can speak.
Okay. Being a leper at that time, if you lick the Ark of the Covenant, it becomes yours.
I touched it first. It's mine.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty wild that the Bible has like this skin disease, and we have no idea what disease
I
they're
don't think
talking
it was
about.
one disease. I think it would have been a variety of different diseases that would have been
Oh, anything that
classified as-
that disfigured you, like on your skin, you'd be like,
what is
you
it?
must be-
Pistoris, where you get the scaly skin in your scalp or whatever. I forget if that's how to pronounce it. Like psoriasis. Sorry, yeah, psoriasis.
It could be. It could be. I
you
mean,
could have that. You could have
or
boils.
that?
You could have acne. You could have like
Favus. Klein suggests.
What about the one? Isn't there one that you're born with, like Vita? How do you pronounce it?
oh vitiligo.
Yeah,
Vitiligo, where
vitiligo.
you patches of
Yeah.
your skin.
But you are
lose-
born with it. You don't acquire it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It,
Right.
it does
No
it
wonder.
tend to appear
I
over
mean,
time. Sometimes
don't-
it will grow.
I don't think we can definitively know. All that we do know is that it is a skin disease, but
it's
like it
interesting.
is divinely inspired, but it is divinely ordained or something like that. I mean,
Well,
the
that's
point
how
is that
they would have
it,
seen
God,
it that way. But the question is,
Yeah.
what did they base it on? What real life?
I don't think we can
They
know
mean
for
in
certain.
like Deuteronomy, I think it is. Maybe Leviticus. They mention like leprosy of the house and
yeah. So it could
and
be
green and red patches and
yeah.
Yeah, and molds and
molds
mildews
yeah,
and
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
It's
So
funny how God does these things. He's like, these teenagers are too beautiful. Let me fix that. Acne.
So again, Lawrence, about the angle. So Levin actually translates it as the side, and he notes that the term Miktsua is mentioned in reference to the walls of Jerusalem in Nehemiah 3:19 through 25, probably on the eastern wall. As a noun meaning side or corner, the word is used in Exodus 26:24 and 36:29, and in Ezekiel 41:22. The Greek uses the same word, gonia, for both the corner gate and for the miktsua. Most translations have angle, but this seems too specific.
I would ask you to.
I will.
type it
I
out,
will.
but I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'll send it on Discord, would you see it on your phone?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay, thanks.
I've got some comments to read. So, let's see. Ralph number 2, which begs an obvious question, says King's College in London uses the life of Brian as a teaching aid. The scholars who held a 5-day lecture series on it said it was amazingly accurate portrayal of the culture at the time. Hey,
That's awesome.
They put a lot of effort into making it historically accurate, which was costume, all that stuff.
Yeah. And the pop-up prophets.
yes, I particularly liked that. Then Trevor Wright says, would you say he estimated number of people in the army throughout 2 Chronicles 25? Is it historical or perhaps symbolic of biblical times or not?
Well,
I think it refers to the number. Yeah, the numbers of the. Yeah, go on, Lois. The numbers.
yeah,
of
it
the
was,
army.
these numbers of like the armies are never like historical.
Yeah.
They're always
I mean,
exaggerated.
1 million troops. I
But-
highly doubt it.
Yeah.
Like,
We
But like
threw
the ages.
10,000 people off this cliff all at once.
Yeah.
And this
And there
one
were
guy
freaking
killed
sharks.
300 people with a spear all at the same time.
That's why they exploded, because they were their mass was all in one spot, and they like.
Imagine killing 300 people with a spear. Jab, 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 jab.
Do you like you don't you have to get them off the spear though if you're impaling them. I'm sorry, that's going to weigh you down. The counterbalance is just not viable. So I don't know.
He made them all line up in a straight line and then threw it.
Oh, you like Achilles with the arrow through the axe heads. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, at least you could get 50 out at the time and then just exaggerate. It comes off very. Is that frickin' sharks with frickin' laser beams on their frickin' heads? It's very much giving that vibe. Like it's.
My
Wildly
unfinished
exact.
stock says, don't hire a prophet. Like and share the stream instead. Also, don't sleep with your ancestors. Gross. And then Matt White says, Aaron is handling snakes and not dying. He fulfills Paul's prophecy. LOL.
Oh, there you go. You're divine now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can we start a
Unwillingly.
religion for tax exempt status, please?
Yes.
I think that's called a sovereign citizen or something. At least they want.
No, we
to
have
pretend.
magic snake handling, so that's different.
Okay, so I'll start with verse 1 about Uzziah. In Kings, he is usually called Azariah, and only 4 times he is called Uzziah, as we see in 2 Kings 15, verses 13, 30, 32, and 34. In Chronicles, the name Uzziah is more common, with Azariah only mentioned once in a completely different context in 1 Chronicles 3:12. Some scholars, like Honeyman, Dillard,
Wait,
and
was Azariah
Japhet,
not the priest? Or
no, there is
Was-
there is Azariah. Uzziah was also Azariah in Kings.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Uzziah
It's
in Hebrew.
yeah, Uzziah, yeah. So some scholars like Honeyman, Dillard, and Jarek suggested that one name was his throne name and the other his birth name, while others like Klein suggest a scribal reason to avoid confusion with the Azariah mentioned in 26, 17, and 20. So yeah, probably.
That's fine.
Matt White, you're right. It was Odysseus with the axe head. Sorry, I got my Homeric heroes crossed briefly. Yeah, sorry. And yeah, a batleth would work better. Yeah, you can drop one side and let the body slide off.
So about I didn't mention earlier Uzziah in the archaeological record. So we do have these 2 like stamps or seals, stone seals that were used for making stamps that possibly mention like belonging to Avia, minister of Uzziah, and Shubniah, minister of Uzziah. And it's dated from the right time, but we don't know exactly where they were found. So we have these like, I think, artifacts which are from the right time and the right language and everything, and they look at they're treated as authentic, but we don't exactly know where it was found, like who found it, if that makes sense. So like it was sold or whatever. And also we know that there was possibly a big earthquake during that time, although the Bible doesn't mention it. So
I think so. I mean, sometimes I remember correctly, like I think in Isaiah, which speaks about after the noise. I mean, Rash, after the earthquake, but I don't know if that refers to the same earthquake. So
right. It would have been like 10 years before he died. I think so. I don't know.
Still, I don't know why they wouldn't include that. I mean, that's prime.
Yeah, you would think if they were
Pissed
had
off
actual
God by eating
right.
a burger.
That's what I
or
mean.
something.
Yeah.
Okay. On verse 4, Yeah, on verse 4, the chronicler's theological evaluation of Uzziah, which is taken from 2 Kings 15:3, doesn't really fit with the context in Chronicles, which states that Amaziah had done what was right in the eyes of the Lord, only not with all his heart in 25:2, consisting of disobeying the prophetic word in 25:16 and worshipping the Edomite gods in 25:14. Whilst the evaluation in Kings is positive, in Chronicles it serves as, quote, a tongue-in-cheek criticism hinting at bad things to come, end quote, according to Levin. Pseudo-Rashi writes that Uzziah did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, quote, like all the proper things that his father did, but not like his wickedness, end quote.
Now, God doesn't like it.
It didn't like it.
Well, you see, he tried to
Don't
worship him
say-
personally, and this offended God. You know, he tried to come in and give an offering himself, and God's like, and I took that personally. Which is, you know, he wants you to be zealous, but not take any initiative. God is weird.
No, it's no good. Your heart's not in it.
On verse 5, Zechariah who instructed him in the fear of God. We have no other information about this Zechariah except for this verse. Pseudo-Rashi suggested that he was Uzziah or Azariah, who had 3 different names, though Kimchi writes that he was a prophet. One opinion in Talmud Sotah 48b states that Zechariah was a priest who, quote, asked of God through the Urim and Thummim, end quote. Likewise, Levin notes Jarik's opinion that Zechariah was an unknown high priest who had the same sort of relationship with Uzziah as Jehoiada had with Joash. Japhet writes that the mention of his name indicates that the chronicler probably had a tradition whose source and quality are unknown, about a prophet named Zechariah. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mentioned him just by his name, but also with a title like prophet or man of God. The Masoretic text describes him as, quote, instructor in the vision of God, end quote, in Hebrew, hamevin birot ha'elohim. But Dillard writes that this seems more appropriate to medieval mysticism rather than to the Hebrew Bible. Septuagint, Targum, Peshitta, and several Hebrew manuscripts read biyirat ha'elohim, which means in the fear of God. A reading also attested by Pseudo-Rashi and Gersonides, which is favored by most modern commentators. On verse 7, Gur Baal. This is the Masoretic text reading, followed by Vulgate, and this is the only place in the Bible which mentions Gur Baal. Most Targum manuscripts read Gerar, a reading favored by Rudolph, followed by most modern commentators, who take Baal as a corruption of Ve'al, and against, and amend the text to read, the Arabs who lived in Gerar and against the Meunim, in Hebrew, Begerar Va'al HaMeunim. Gerar is southwest of Jerusalem, and Japhet writes that the emendation ties the verse to the historical picture shown in 14:8 forward, 21:16, where Arab and Cushite tribes resided in the southern border of Judah. Septuagint reads the rock or Petra, and Peshitta omits verse 7.
Yeah, I'm surprised Steinsaltz. Wait, why did you bring up the rock?
Why not?
Wait, which word is translated as rock?
Like Dwayne, the Rock Johnson.
Gur Baal.
Oh, Gorbal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Obviously,
funny, 'cause that's
yeah,
the later part of
they
this
need
chapter.
a plexus slam in here to keep it interesting.
Okay,
What the
all right.
Okay, sorry about that. About verse 8, the Ammonites. This is the reading of the Masoretic text, followed by Vulgate and Targum. Septuagint reads Minayoi, i.e. the Meunites, a reading suggested by Kimchi. Gersonides writes that the Meunites were Ammonites, and favored by most modern commentators, for the following reasons. 1. Japhet writes that the mention of the Ammonites does not fit the geological context of Uzziah's wars happening southwest of his kingdom, since they were located on its eastern side. 2. Klein notes that in Chronicles, the term sons of Ammon, in Hebrew Bnei Ammon, is the usual term to describe the Ammonites. 3. The reading Meunites preserves the continuity of the previous verse.
Yeah, I mean, verse 8 mentions the Ammonites as just Ammonim, not the sons of Ammon, but yeah.
I want to know more about the Mayonites. Mayo. It sounds like.
Mayonites,
It's
yeah.
like,
Meu.
It's
Nights,
probably just a misspelling. It's probably just a typo.
oh,
Of
I thought
Ammonite.
white people were finally in the Bible. Aaron, I think your face is frozen.
Moment.
Oh.
Maybe the Mayonites is just a misspelling of like the Ammonites, as in the fossils, but
Let me have my silly joke.
I was adding to it, make it more silly.
Okay, on verse 9, Klein comments, quote, Uzziah is one of 4 kings, with Jotam, Hezekiah, and Manasseh, who rebuilt or fortified the wall of Jerusalem. None of this account is found in the Book of Kings, and their historical reality is difficult to demonstrate. Yet when Sennacherib came in 701 BCE, he found 46 fortified cities, he found 46 fortified cities, and he commemorated the fortifications at Lachish with artistic depictions in his palace at Nineveh. Someone must have repaired the breach in the walls made by Jehoash of the northern kingdom in 2 Kings 14:13. But the main point in this building account is a theological one. These building projects demonstrate the effects of Uzziah's faithfulness, and they redress the destruction of the Jerusalem wall by the northern king Jehoash when Amaziah was king. The text mentions no objections by Uzziah's contemporary, Jeroboam II, to these activities by Uzziah, perhaps suggesting that Judah was once again free and independent. On verses 12 and 13, these verses describe a 2-tier army system with 2,600 heads of clans, in Hebrew Rashei Ha'avot, commanding 307,500 warriors. Japhet notes that the usual structure of an army from Judah and Benjamin is not listed here. She writes that this system has undergone a long process of deterioration, which led to some considerations regarding the historicity of the account. She suggested that the chronicler's description portrays an authentic tradition of registration based on fathers' houses, with a gradually declining affiliation of these units to larger tribal or territorial entities. Klein, however, writes that the overall size of the army is highly exaggerated, though in the chronicler's context, Uzziah's army wasn't that large compared to other Judean kings. Levin writes, quote, even if the chronicler was using an authentic source on the army of Judah at various periods of time, from which he learned of its enlistment by fathers' houses, of its 2-tier structure, and of the decreasing role of separate tribal units, he then increased its overall size in accordance with his literary needs. On verse 15, devices. In Hebrew, chishbonot machashevet choshev. The root chet shin bet means to think, design, or plan, and appears in the description of Bezalel's skills in designing the tabernacle in Exodus 31:4 and 35:35. Japhet reads it literally, quote, devises the devising of devisers, end quote, and likewise Klein, quote, engines designed by skilled men, end quote. Josephus in Antiquities 9:2-1 describes them as, quote, many machines for sieges, including rock throwers, spear throwers, and grappling irons, end quote. Japhet notes that a common proposal in academia is that these refer to devices for shooting arrows, ballista, and large stones, catapults, which according to the classical sources like Diodorus Siculus, Book 1442-1, were invented by the Romans by the late 5th century or early 4th century. Welton proposed that the context of this verse is Hellenistic, and such machines reflected contemporary knowledge of the chronicler in the early 3rd century. However, Klein notes that Williamson cited Persian evidence from Old Paphos dating to 498 BCE for some kind of machine capable of throwing large stones, which obviates the need for a 3rd century date for the chronicler. Levin notes that Yigal Yadin understood these machines to have been special structures built on the towers and battlements, which protected the defenders and allowed them to shoot arrows and throw stones more easily. In Levin's opinion, quote, just such structures can be seen on Sennacherib's reliefs showing the siege of Lachish, and if so, perhaps reflect the reality of Uzziah's time as well, end quote. This view is shared by many commentators like Dillard, Japhet, and Klein, though others prefer a later date for this description, such as Bianchi and Rossoni and Eiffel. Septuagint reads, machines devised by a mathematician, and Vulgate, machines of diverse kinds.
Yeah. But, like, very literally, it's kind of like things made, like smart things made by smart people, kind of. Yeah.
My
Like
unfinished
engines made by
journey offers
engineers.
my unfinished journey offers $2.22 and says, "Hail, Aaron and Panel, and a mountain of 10,000 bodies."
Someone needs to do the math on exactly how high that would be, because obviously they wouldn't just stack. They would, you get kind of a natural
in a
pyramid
cone, yeah.
mound.
Yeah, but if they
yeah.
exploded, then they might have taken up less space.
See, you're still going to have the same volume. It's just that the distribution is going to be more chaotic, and at some point, they're going to stop blowing up quite so dramatically.
Okay, on verse 16, Boda comments, quote, Uzziah's pride prompted him to commit what was for the chronicler one of the worst violations imaginable, infringement of the sacred precincts, where only the priests were allowed to enter. See his deep concern for this in the overthrow of Athaliah in 23:6 and 7 and 14:15. His actions is described as ma'al, a term that occurs regularly in the priestly literature in the Old Testament, and is defined by Milgrom as a sin against God, in contrast to a sin against humanity. This sin is categorized in two ways. The sancta trespass, referring to inappropriate contact with that which is holy, as we see in Leviticus 5, 14 through 19, 14, 10 through 14, 21 through 25, 22, 14 through 16. And oath violation, that is, the violation of God's name that was sworn in the oath, as we see in Leviticus 6, 1 through 7, and Numbers 5, 6 through 8. Milgrom concludes that, quote, Ma'al then means trespassing upon the divine realm either by poaching on his sancta or breaking his covenant oath. It is a lethal sin which can destroy both the offender and his community.
It's also interesting, like, this story seems to be, I think the main thing it's trying to teach is that the king doesn't have absolute power. He can't go into the temple and do whatever he wants. The priests can threaten him.
Yeah, the division of divine and earthly powers.
The separation of church and state.
Well, even when they're hand in glove, the religious has always tried to maintain supremacy. Like in the Holy Roman Empire, I forget the names of those involved, but one of the earliest Holy Roman emperors and the Pope, it was supposed to be an equal relationship where one would basically choose the other, like the Pope chooses the emperor and the emperor chooses a Pope whenever a new one is required. And the emperor tried to get something over on the Pope, so the Pope excommunicated him. And because he has the you go to hell card to play, then the emperor has to go crawling on his knees and begging forgiveness, and in sackcloth and ashes and humiliating himself the way an emperor is does not want to do. And so that sort of establishment of no matter how much earthly power you have, we still have the divine powers, so you better know your place. That game has been going on in various forms for a long ass time. And it does come back a lot.
And throughout the history, there were like multiple popes sometimes, because if there were kings that didn't like the pope, they would support another pope somewhere else in another city or something.
An anti-pope.
That happened multiple times. Yeah, the anti-pope or whatever.
Yeah, and then you piss off Dante, and he writes about how everyone in hell is just waiting for your ratchet ass to get down there.
Yeah.
Good times.
Okay, on verse 18, Klein comments, quote, The priests criticize Uzziah for burning incense, claiming that this is a right reserved to the sons of Aaron. The legal basis for this claim may be found in Exodus 30, 1 through 10, and Numbers 18, 1 through 7. In Exodus 30, the incense altar is placed in the holy place, in front of the curtain that is above the ark, and Aaron, that is a priest, is to offer incense on it twice a day. In Numbers 18, Aaron and his sons are assigned all the duties of the sanctuary, the altar, and the area behind the curtain. Any outsider who approaches these areas was to be put to death. The point is especially emphasized at the conclusion of the story of Korach's rebellion, when Yahweh reveals the following message to Moses with instructions to pass it on to Eleazar, the son of Aaron. Quote, "No outsider who is not of the descendants of Aaron shall approach to offer incense before Yahweh," end quote, in Numbers 17:5, which is 1640. Of course, it is that exclusive right that Korach and his followers protested when Moses asked them to hold censers in their hands when they'd receive Yahweh's decision in this matter, as we see in Numbers 16, 6 and 7. If the dispute with Korach is to be dated to post-exilic times, then it is an anachronism. Then it is an anachronism to claim that only the sons of Aaron were allowed to offer incense in pre-exilic times. Uzziah is being criticized according to post-exilic standards.
Well, that's true. They do tend to criticize according to post-exilic standards quite a bit.
Yeah. On verse 19, Klein notes that Uzziah is furious, vayiz'af, much like when King Asa, when Hanani the seer rebuked him for making an alliance with Ben-Hadad in 1610. He notes that the wording about Uzziah having a censer in his hand is remarkably similar, but not identical, to the command Moses issued to those who rejected the exclusive right of the sons of Aaron to burn incense just before they were punished. Do take these censers, and tomorrow put fire in them, and lay incense on them before Yahweh, in Numbers 16, 6 and 7. Pseudo-Rashi, however, suggested that Uzziah was about to strike the priest with the censer. Yeah. Japhet notes that the use of the root zain resh chet, to break out, appears only here in the context of leprosy, and almost exclusively for the shining of the sun. Its use here probably reflects its sudden appearance and reddish color.
I told you it was a breakout.
As we see in Genesis 38:30, Leviticus 13:12-15, and 2 Kings 3:22. Josephus, in Antiquities 9:2-5, combines both meanings of Zayin Resh Chet and writes that after a great earthquake caused the sanctuary to split open, quote, "A dazzling ray of sunlight shone through and fell on the face of the king, with the result that leprosy immediately appeared upon him."
Well, God does need to have his dramatic moment with his special lighting. Really, if it's not cinematic, is it truly divine?
What was that? What was that last source for that?
Josephus?
That was Josephus. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
I think maybe he was building off the whole Moses thing, where he sees the God, and his face is shining, but there's also like the idea that he grew horns, right? So
I don't think so, because that uses a different Hebrew word. In it, there is karan, and that's because the horns there also means keren, and because I don't think it necessarily related to him.
Okay.
But I'm checking the commentary on Josephus's.
Like even if the affliction is different, I mean, I guess it's different enough, right? Because he says that the son did that and not from not seeing God. So, yes, it's different enough.
Yeah. On verse 20, Levin notes that according to Leviticus 13 and 14, the leper is impure and must be separated from the camp for 7 days before being allowed to undergo a purification ritual. According to Numbers 12, 2 Samuel 3:29, and 2 Kings 5:27, leprosy is incurred as divine punishment, and Deuteronomy 24:8 and 9 seems to have that in mind when reading, quote, "Guard against an affliction of leprosy by being very careful. You shall carefully observe whatever the Levitical priests instruct you, just as I have commanded them," end quote. He writes that the chronicler's portrayal of Uzziah could be classified as an intermediate step in the understanding of leprosy. He is struck with it because of his blasphemy, ushered from the temple because of his impurity, and is cut off for life from kingdom and temple. And finally, 22. According to 2 Kings 15:6, the events of Azariah's reign are recorded in the Annals of the Kings of Judah. Isaiah is the only prophet among the canonical prophets for whom the chronicler attributes historical writing. He again mentions him as the one who wrote the rest of Hezekiah's events in 32:32. While this reference makes sense, given Isaiah's involvement with Hezekiah's reign, Uzziah is mentioned only 3 times in the book of Isaiah, in 1:1, 6:1, and 7:1, the first 2 as a chronological reference, and the third as part of the lineage of Achaz, son of Yotam, son of Uzziah. Levin notes that scholars argue that the citation here is a literary invention, such as beg, or that Isaiah actually contributed a chapter to the book of the kings of Judah and Israel, according to Raini. Ole suggested that Isaiah here originally referred to an unknown prophet called Yishiyahu, as reflected in Septuagint Iesio, without the patronymic son of Amoz. This prophet was confused with the more well-known Isaiah, which led to the unique citation. Nevertheless, Dillard writes, quote, either the chronicler had access to some writings otherwise unknown to biblical tradition, or the Isaiah traditions he cites were part of a larger work on the history of the kingdoms.
It's interesting how much of this may have relied on traditions and really just memes, although not the word that would have been used, but yeah, viral ideas of the time that would have just references would have landed. And now we just have to kind of guess what they were referring to.
Leprosy. Something's falling off of me. I'm not half the man I used to be. Since I contracted leprosy.
Now, I am happy to announce we have Christians.
And I thought we just prayed for those.
No.
I think he did a humane trap this time. He was just trying to catch a few.
Tamara, you have one in chat who's offended by your screen name. Just saying. Don't reply to it. Don't reply to it.
Don't bother. There's always a...
No, it's funny.
Is your screen name Tomer? I can't see it. Sorry.
No,
it says Tomer, Jesus touched me.
No, he's not referring to Tomer. He's referring to Tomar. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have a similar problem with people keep referring to Aaron.
No, well, keep in mind this
I
guy
don't know
thinks.
Why people will do that to you, Aaron.
Keep in mind this guy thinks that a mountain is in fact a fossilized giant elephant. So that's the level we're dealing with.
Is this the elephant that the world is riding on the back of? Who stands?
No, this is
turtle.
These are people that look at pareidolia and say, if that mountain or that rock looks like a face, then that rock is a face.
Yes.
If that cloud looks like a duck, it is a duck.
And all the heart-shaped pebbles are fossilized hearts, which are evidence for Noah's flood. Because how would you get so many fossilized hearts? Where did they come from? You can't explain that. You know, checkmate, atheists.
And also hearts look like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not labia at all.
Do you want to read some comments before I get to the Christians?
Certainly. Let's see. Ralph number 3, and the thing I like about Ralph's is that they always speak in sequence. Average volume of someone of average build, about 5 foot tall.
Wait, Arn, pause.
Okay.
Go on.
Oh, now you sound good.
Yeah.
Okay. The average volume of someone of average build at about 5 foot tall is 2.5 to 3 cubic feet. Working with 3, a conical pile 50 feet wide would be 46 feet tall. Back of the envelope.
That's him whacking it out on the back of an envelope. I think there's a second message.
Okay, gotcha. And then bumped up to 3.0 to allow for some air spaces. The 50-foot base is an assumption. I'm not sure how well bodies stack, so I picked a roughly pyramid-shaped cone. How do you have a pyramid-shaped cone?
I think you mean, well, isn't it technically, isn't a cone already like that shape?
No.
Yeah, it's a vaguely
No.
conical situation. There's a chaos element.
Homer, you're the math guy. Help me.
No, a cone and a pyramid are two different things.
Okay, but there must be something that groups them together, no?
Children,
No.
I just want to know how high the stack of bodies
Shapes that are
would be.
triangles from a side view, I guess.
Well, I guess we're just never going to know unless we throw 10,000 people off of a cliff.
Well,
Yeah.
he says 46 feet tall. Yeah.
Rapture?
Now, you know, in mathematics, I don't know if it's mathematical physics, you do like in order to make things simpler, you simplify things.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
where you get the idea of like, a plane that has no mass and no.
Right,
whatever.
and that's why you make the body cylindrical for the purpose of
Yeah.
calculation. Not because
Spherical
we're
cows
actually-
is, I think, the term.
Spherical
I
cows
was like
would-
saying, like if you use spherical humans, they would explode slightly better as well. So
That's true. It's true.
Okay, so back to the ancient Christians. So Cyprian says that Uzziah was branded by the Lord's anger on that part of the body on which those who win the Lord's favor are sealed. Go figure. Ephraim says that because of their sin, Adam and Uzziah fled and hid in shame of their bodies. Go figure. But Eusebius says that Uzziah is described as at first having been righteous, and then it is related that he was lifted up in mind and dared to offer sacrifice to God himself, and his face became leprous in consequence. Also, among the Jews who rejected the Christ of God, the true high priest, a kind of leprosy infected their souls, as in the days of Uzziah.
Wait, leprosy affects souls?
Oh, wait,
yeah,
they
kind of.
don't
If
have
it's
faith in
something-
Jesus.
If it's something that makes you unclean, yes, it can affect souls. But leave it to Eusebius to pull that one out of his ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you
Yeah.
see, they don't have the faith in Jesus, which obviously destroys their souls in a leprous way. And that, because, my life is so much better without faith in Jesus. But apparently this would be a problem.
it sounds a bit like the Book of Mormon thing with like their skin became dark because they were sinful or whatever. like-
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's just the
spiritual
standard.
leprosy.
It's the standard line. Things are so much better if you have our faith. If you don't have our faith, you're cursed in your soul. And all the people who actually don't have your faith are like, actually, I'm very happy. What are you talking about? No, you're not. You're miserable. You just don't know you're miserable. And your
I
soul
don't
is
know that I'm
rotten.
miserable.
Yeah.
Then why are you telling me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I'm done here.
Okay. So then we will move on to 27.
Yes.
Someone
Shouldn't
asked-
you be
someone-
reading one?
Wait.
You want to read it? Go ahead.
Someone
No, I
asked
said you should.
Homer.
I mean, I
Someone asked
can
Homer
read.
if
I was prepared
if
to.
Wait,
Eusebius
wait.
was referring to
Isaac.
souls of the souls of their feet.
What?
He's like, if you want to find a Jew, look at their soles of their feet. They'll have leprosy. I don't know.
No. It's souls with the SOULS.
I
You
know,
see
I
why
know.
I hate English? Because you can't differentiate between soul food and soul food, right?
Yes, please do not eat feet.
Yeah, I definitely can't differentiate
I
those.
mean, if your soul food
late.
is feet, then yeah,
Good for
as
you.
in your only food. Okay.
Okay. We ready for 27?
Yes.
Okay. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, just like that other kid was in the previous chapter. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerushah, daughter of Zadok. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord, just as father Uzziah had done. Only he did not enter the temple of the Lord. but the people still followed corrupt practices. He built the upper gate of the house of the Lord and did extensive building on the wall of Ophel. Moreover, he built cities on the hill country of Judah and forts and towers in the wooded hills. He fought with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed against them. The Ammonites gave him that year 100 talents of silver, 10,000 cores of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. The Ammonites paid him the same amount in the second and third years. So Jotham strengthened himself because he ordered his ways before the Lord his God. Now, the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. Jotham slept with his ancestors, and they buried him in the city of David, and his son Ahaz succeeded him.
Well, that was uneventful.
Yeah, I mean, the only...
It's not entirely uneventful. I mean, every time Ahaz enters a room, it's a surprise.
Kill me. So the new
almost
material...
amazing, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what I wanted to note. So like there are parallels, but like the most interesting, like the chronicler's perspective in 3b through 6, which Klein says that it fully supports the positive evaluation of Jotham by listing his building projects and a single successful military campaign. The lack of specificity in these verses, the ideological bias, and other factors relating to preceding or following chapters suggest that there is little material here that will benefit historical research, except perhaps for the battle with the Ammonites.
I think there's little material that will fit the narrative that this author wants to push.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what you love in it, right?
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I want my history filled with someone making their own ego the main character?
Yeah. Yotam is not mentioned really. Well, he's mentioned in archaeology, but only because he's the father of Ahaz. Ahaz is also known as Yehoahaz. I guess Ahaz is like a shortened version. He was too cool for Yahweh, so he called himself Ahaz, I guess, rather than Yehoahaz. So he's mentioned in like Assyrian records. Tiglath-Pileser, I think. He received tribute from him. And there's also possibly a actual like royal bulla that says like this belongs to Ahaz, son of Yotam, which is pretty cool. I think that's like probably the first character in the Bible who talks about who is an author, I guess. Not an author, but like we have an archaeological thing that's not talking about him, but it's actually like his item.
Yeah, like he it's his thing. It's his chair. It's his.
Well, maybe not the first, but the first Israelite character, I should say. I think one of the Assyrians or Arameans has writings as well. I can't remember which one.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with verse 2. Dillard comments, quote, "The chronicler modified the parallel text at 2 Kings 15:35 by omitting the reference to Yotham's failure to remove the high places and substituting in its place the note that Yotham did not enter the temple as Uzziah had done. Uzziah's act of sacrilege was not mentioned in Kings. The concern with the sanctity of the temple reflects a major element in the chronicler's theology. The chronicler often omits references to the high places, as was seen 24:2, parallel to 2 Kings 12:4, which is 3, and 25:2, parallel to 2 Kings 14:4. These instances, like this one, occur in passages where the chronicler is presenting a positive portrayal of individual reigns and where negative evaluations are omitted or delayed. The reference to corrupt practices appears to be the chronicler's paraphrase of making sacrifices and burning incense on the high places, 2 Kings 15:35. Some sense of the corruption practices of the time can be gleaned from the preaching of Isaiah in Isaiah 1-5 and Micah. On verse 3, Yotam did extensive work on the wall at the hill of Ophel. From here until verse 6 is the chronicler's account. The exact nature of the Ofel is unclear. Targum reads, the inner wall of the palace, and Peshita, the wall which had been finished. Pseudo-Rashi and Botseko take the Ofel to be a fortress, whilst Kimchi and Gersonides take it to be a high place in Jerusalem. Klein notes that Ofel in the Bible usually designates the northern part of the city of David, but in its only other use in Chronicles, in 2 Chronicles 33:14, it seems to refer to the area north of the temple. He writes that both references to Ofel in Chronicles appear to come from the chronicler's own hand, and not from a source. Levin writes that all non-poetic references to an Ofel in Jerusalem are post-exilic, and the two passages in Chronicles are post-exilic references to a feature in pre-exilic Jerusalem.
Yeah, there definitely seems like the chronicler is trying to associate different kings with different, contemporary structures that he would have been aware of. Maybe not contemporary, but late within his memory of people of either the chronicler himself or people he knew. Because if it was exilic, then yeah, it would have been a memory of Jerusalem, let's say.
Mhm.
That
Well-
people knew different structures and the like. So
Yeah, a memory of what had been, albeit possibly a somewhat corrupted one, and the keeping a record of it. If he had any historical, because we don't know what his sources were, he may have had some book of facts of the kings that attributed this or that to this or that king who sponsored it. But it's obviously also very easy to fudge those a bit to favor the kings you like or the kings whose descendants you like.
On verse 4, Levin comments, quote, the remaining projects attributed to Yotham are seemingly generic, and Williamson, following Welton, considered them to be a case of the chroniclers composing a parallel to the positive period of his father's reign. Japhet, on the other hand, points out the differences between these projects and Uzziah's, and the fact that such terms as Ofel, Chorashim, i.e. forests, and Biraniot, fortresses, and Ha-Yehuda, hill country of Judah, are rare in Chronicles, if not unique, suggesting that the chronicler took them from some pre-existing source. On verse 5, Yotham waged war against the king of the Ammonites. Japhet comments, quote, the chronicler ascribes to Yotham one specific military exploit, although all his wars will be mentioned in verse 7. In the campaign against the Ammonites, there is nothing impossible or extraordinary. Even the tribute, while its quantities are certainly too high, represents a probable combination: silver, wheat, and barley. The note is carefully phrased. Yotham's campaign is limited, with no miraculous victory or conquest of Ammonite territory. The chronicler's familiar tendency to add positive information for the righteous kings, especially victorious wars, may incline the reader to doubt the authenticity of our note. However, its inclusion may be more the fruit of careful selection than of imagination on the part of the chronicler. While it is unfortunate that the information is so vague, there is still no reason to doubt the facts themselves. And finally, on verse 8, this verse, which repeats what is said in verse 1, is absent from the Septuagint. Klein notes Rudolph's opinion that this verse, or at least the first 4 Hebrew words, was a marginal gloss to 28:1, attempting to change 20 to 25. He also suggested that the rest of the verse was filled in when it was mistakenly included at verse 8. Japhet, however, suggested that this was an intentional repetition, designed to lengthen the report of Yotham's reign. In the Vorlage of Kings, there is a confrontation between Retzin and Pekach in 2 Kings 15:37, which is missing from Chronicles. Dillard notes that their attack is viewed by the chronicler as divine punishment on Achaz in 28:5-8, and writes that it would be inappropriate to his entirely positive portrayal of Yotham. Klein notes that Johnstone suggested that verse 8 here is a substitute for 2 Kings 15:37. No ancient questions.
Yeah, I mean, you can always read Jesus into something if you really, really try, but there isn't really a lot to go on here.
Oh, Oh, wait till Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther.
Oh, I honestly, I can imagine. I can invent for you 16 off the top of my head. Just, I point
And
to a verse.
And you know what the best part is? For all the commentaries for Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther are from a single person.
Of course they
for
are.
each independent one. So, but once we'll get to that, it'll be fun.
Of course they are.
So we're gonna finish this this chapter today?
28.
No.
Should I do it?
I've finished it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna finish this book.
Oh, the book.
The book.
Is this the last chapter?
No.
It is not. There is like
Arwen is
I
gaslighting
love
us.
it.
There's entirely too much.
He absolutely is
You're a
gaslighting
meanie.
us.
Yes.
However, I am personally all out of time. I gotta
Oof.
do some stuff around the house and probably get a new fucking computer.
One moment.
So need to figure some stuff out.
You know
Okay.
what? That'll actually work for me because then I'll start writing the first chapter of Ezra. Finally.
Yeah.
About time. I'm already on Matthew.
I've got a comment. Trevorn Wright says, "What nation is Edom in the biblical textual narrative, or was it invented to fit this particular period? And who were the gods of Edom specifically, if any, if any, in 2 Chronicle 25:20?"
I mean, Edom was the region to the south of Judah. So and that's like the whole southern region.
Yeah.
So like
And it's referenced in many of the stories. Like it's
It
not
is,
just
yeah.
this region. Time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and I think we have inscriptions written in Edomite, a dialect, a Canaanite dialect, like Hebrew was a Canaanite dialect. I mean, Tom had mentioned like theophoric names with Kos. I don't know which.
Yes.
I don't know which Canaanite god that might be referring to, but it's most probably that they probably had Canaanite gods and maybe some foreign gods that they had brought into their own pantheon at some point as well. But they were real people. We have records of them in the archaeological
Also,
record.
They seem to have been quite schizophrenic in the Hebrew writings about whether or not they could be or should be allies with Edom, because it goes back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah, there is an interesting.
Yeah, the issue, because Edom is equated with Esau, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like there's the issue,
which is like a relative, but
yeah.
but then again, they try to make everyone related. The Ammonites are related. The Moabites are related.
Yes, the Lannisters send their regards.
Mm.
But Lawrence, sorry, you were saying they're in the region to the south.
Yeah,
although
so
that's
that entire area was Edom. So they were, usually not seen in the best light by the Israelites. Although we do kind of see we've covered this before, but we do kind of see this dualistic view of them, because we have there's of course the Midianite hypothesis, right, where where Yahweh would have come from the southern region into Israel. So there are like links with Moses to the south, but at the same time we get like this idea that the southern region was filled with a bunch of enemies. So yeah, and the thing is, there are a few characters, a few things that are just like that.
Yeah, but what about like, wasn't Moab to the south? Wasn't like several different things?
like southeast, east.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
we need a
Moab
map.
and Ammon.
Yeah, it would have been
the
like
east,
right
southeast.
to the wasn't it like right to the east of Judah?
Yeah,
But they were both somewhat south, and definitely Moab was. But then, it's convoluted because they also had the retcon that Moab and the Ammonites were related, but through the incestuous children born to the daughters of Lot in the cave, and somehow they both became their own tribe.
Yeah,
So
they had
bad. But
they had to tie them together for parts of it and then separate them for other parts.
yeah,
and then
it's
later
very
periods.
convoluted.
We don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily accurate in the Bible, but
Oh
because
God,
they're
no.
like mixed up a lot and they're coming from they're more the sort of like theoretical map of the region. You normally have Edom taking up the whole southern border
Yeah.
of Judah. The eastern border would have been like the Dead Sea, the Moabites on the other side of the sea, and then Philistine to the west, the kingdom of Israel to the north, and then Ammon would have been east of Israel, north of Moab, and then you would have had Aram, Damascus above that.
Yeah, but even then, these designations are
Yeah.
very they're kind of anachronistic, and some of them at least, not all of them. That they weren't always thought of as like this, like a whole other country. Oh
Mm.
shit! Sorry, I don't know if you guys hear that. They're doing some work on the driveway. So these things are sometimes anachronistic because we give the names usually referred to like groups of people that might have had their own like they could have viewed their own ethnic identity in a diverse set of ways, so it's not like they're always one unit. It's especially true of Canaan itself, but
Yeah.
it would have applied to some other places as well.
Yeah, we only have it through the lens of, well, honestly, Hebrew propaganda, both court propaganda at various times and potentially religious propaganda after the return from exile and all that. So it's very hard to be clear about these things. Were these references to real people and groups? Yeah, kind of, but the impression of them is very incomplete, which and
Yeah, and the Bible talks about like Edom and Ammon like from like being like these ancient peoples that existed, in the time of the conquest narrative and stuff like that.
oh
But
yeah.
they probably, I mean, maybe they would have existed with a different name back then. But like for example, with Edom, some identify them with the Shasu, which are an Egyptian name for people that sometimes like did raids against Egypt and stuff quite early on. I mean, not that early on. We're talking about like 3,000 years ago. Not like
Right,
I
not
mean, the
not great
Shasu
pyramids
and
old.
the Apiru, right? They are like potential precursors to the Israelites, to the earlier Israelites, that is. So that's actually some more stuff that I want to look into. I think that'd be really interesting. There's a lot of competing hypotheses, but
right.
Yeah.
And their
Understandable.
language is pretty much would have been like completely intelligible with the Hebrew spoken in Judah, and it could have even been more intelligibility between Judah and Edomite than there was between Judah and Sumerian Hebrew at certain points. So,
I could absolutely believe that. Judah, yeah, you can see they kept themselves separate from Israel, and the attempt to retcon them after still
I think
doesn't quite get rid of that.
archaeologists literally tell the difference between like an Edomite and like Judahite inscription based on like the names used. Like I don't think there's like specific maybe there might be some vocabulary which is like it helps them identify, but I think it's mostly if it's got like what are known as Edomite names, they're like, oh, this is an Edomite inscription, and that helps them like to figure out what like how different languages were, but they're really really similar. Yeah.
Okay.
And use the same script. Yeah.
All right, then, as Lawrence has something else he has to get to. We never explained it why we're doing this on a Tuesday.
Because
Tomer
I
has
said so.
What's that?
I said so.
Okay. Yeah. Because Tomer said so.
Yeah. Blame him.
Tomer has the audacity to have a life and other things going on.
Yeah. Well, it's going to work out for me because somebody wanted me to do a late night radio show. I mean, on actual radio.
Ooh.
But they wanted me to like 4 a.m, staying up all night kind of radio show. Weird thing. But okay, I'm down. It would be as long as I didn't have to get up for this show. And Tomar says, "Well, we're not going to do the show that day." Okay, fine, I can do that.
Oh, that was very convenient.
Yeah.
Played right into my hands.
Proof that you are blessed
Yeah.
by the gods.
All right. Well, as Tomer says, we don't end the show till he says goodbye. So,
And make sure to join the Discord and subscribe to Milwaukee Atheists.
the Discord.
The Discord.
Yeah, my Discord.
Trademark.
Specifically my
Lawrence's
Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of any other Discords.
No.
Yeah, I'm still, toiling away at my translation of Matthew. But yeah, I'm excited to bring some interesting, I don't know, I guess you'd call them specialty studies. I'm going to be, like, after I do the translation, I'm going to do a more detailed commentary. That stuff, I left a link to it on the Discord too. So if anyone wants to see where I'm at with that. Link's also on Patreon.
Absolutely. And somebody, look, if you have money, somebody buy Lawrence a nice computer. He really needs it.
I'll be going to there's a Best Buy nearby, so I'm going to be going over there and just I'm going to ask about, like, listen, I need it to edit stuff, I need it to stream stuff. I mean, those are the big ones, right? But I need it to be, like, portable. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Tomer.
Yeah.